Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about the unintended consequences of detracking. This is a review of Tracking Inequality by Samuel Roundfield Lucas. So tracking is a practice by which students are divided into rigidly prescribed courses of study based on an assessment of their academic ability. They take coursework at varying levels in different subjects. In Tracking Inequality, Lucas examines the reproduction of inequality caused by the structural changes which resulted from the so-called unremarked revolution, as Lucas called it. The dismantling of formal tracking systems may have done away with the structures for assigning students to rigid programs. This change, however, may not have produced the desired outcomes for students. In the book, the overview of the main concepts of the book, Lucas wanted to expose the unintended consequences which transform and submerge the stubborn system of inequality in schools. Some other people have studied some similar topics. Jeannie Oakes, for example, has conducted many research studies concerning the effect of social policies on the education of low-income students with a focus on investigating equity-minded reform. She found that the requirements of higher education institutions in California encourage a more differentiated system of college preparatory tracks in high schools. She also found evidence that there are far more blacks and Latinos in college tracks, or in non-college tracks rather, than whites or Asians. Garrett and Delaney also studied the influence of social background factors to see if the non-college dichotomy describes student course taking in math and science. They found that the association between students' courses were not substantially summarized by the college-non-college dichotomy, suggesting there has been a change since the pre-1965 organization of student programs. They also studied some high schools in California and found that black students were actually more likely than white students to be enrolled in a math course when achievement was controlled in the study. Inconsistent results have been found when investigating gender differences in course assignments. Gamaran and Mayer found a higher concentration of girls in college track programs than boys, while Lucas and Gamaran found sex had no effect on tracks placement, and Garrett and Delaney also found that sex had no effect on student high school placements in mathematics, similar to the findings of Lucas and Gamaran. Much of the existing research focuses primarily on mathematics and science. That's where this book kind of differs a little bit from some of the previous literature. Lucas took a different approach by analyzing course taking in mathematics and English rather than mathematics and science. He focuses on student course taking in discrepant categories, and when we say discrepant categories, that means at different levels, so college, non-college type discrepancies. He focuses on this because this has not really been the focus of prior analysis in a lot of the other literature. There's been a lot of studies that have shown evidence that students register for classes without fully understanding the long-term implications of their decisions. A factor in this faint awareness of implications is the reluctance of counselors to interfere with the students' aspirations. So they don't want to get in the way of what the student has identified that they want to do. So taking a look at the main points, some of the main points in tracking inequality are discrepant course taking, high achievement in math versus English, scope and mobility, scheduling, early placements, intentional course taking, and social class. Discrepant course taking, Lucas's analysis of discrepant course taking found that it is more likely for students to be enrolled in math and English classes that are considered to be at the same level, that is, either college level or non-college level or non-college preparatory, so courses in the same level in the same subject. So they're more likely to be in both math and English courses at the same level than they are to be in any other single combination of courses at different levels, and that the more discrepant the courses are, the less likely the courses are to be taken together. So, for example, if there's a high-level college preparatory math class and a very low-level English class, they're very unlikely to be taken together. High achievement in math versus English. Lucas found that students who have high achievement in math have a 90% chance of taking college prep math, while students having high achievement in English only have a 60% chance of taking college prep math. So if they're achieving high in math, they've got a very high chance of taking college prep courses in math, but a lower chance of taking college prep courses in English. However, the students who have high achievement in English only have a 78% chance of being enrolled in college prep English. So this is a little bit different. In math, when they achieve high in math, they have a 90% chance of taking a class in college prep math. In English, when they're high achieving in English, they only have a 78% chance of being enrolled in college prep English. While students with high achievement in math have an 80% chance of being enrolled in college prep English. So it's kind of interesting. The students with high achievement in math are actually more likely to be enrolled in college prep English than the students who are high achieving in English. This was kind of an important finding for me that Lucas made. Next, scope and mobility. So scope focuses on the extent to which course-taking options are limited based on the student's placement in one subject. Mobility is the ability of a student to move up or down in the stratification system. Prior to the unremarked revolution, research suggests that mobility was rare. But, Lucas found that Lucas also found that when students did move, it was typically a downward movement. So even though mobility was more possible in the new system, upward movement was not super common. It was more common for students to move down. However, there was some points in the book that talked about, the students who start out on top stay on top, so they're not very likely to move down either. But the kind of middle students, when they did drop down, they actually stayed down. They would not come back up again. So, as far as mobility goes, it was almost similar to what happened prior to the unremarked revolution, as Lucas called it. Scheduling. This was a very important point for me. So Delaney and Ryle, Natrello, and Pellis found that student schedules are not often the results of a concerted effort to place students in courses at an appropriate level, but rather they are more frequently the results of solving logistical problems. So we're not scheduling kids based on the courses that are appropriate for them. We're basing them around our master schedule, so to speak. So this was, this kind of hit home for me pretty good. We're not necessarily giving the children the courses that are best for them, or that will prepare them or have the best implications for them for college. We're focusing on this logistical schedule and trying to fit them into the logistical schedule rather than actually giving them what's going to help them be most successful. Early placements, Hallinan found that the lower one's curricular location, the more likely one is to move up, and the higher one's curricular location, the more likely one is to move down. But Lucas kind of disproved this. So he through his statistical models, he found that when students start out on top, that they actually stay on top, and there's not much mobility for these students. They tend to stay in that really high placement in the stratification system. Um, but he also found that there's, they don't move around a whole heck of a lot, the people that are in top, and then the ones that take a higher level math early are more likely to be enrolled in the college prep math and take those higher level courses in math than the ones that are not. So the ones that don't take it early on tend to stay behind and never really rise up to the level of the other students. Intentional course taking. So, as I was just talking about, early placements in advanced mathematics courses advantage the students who take them over those who do not. For those students who do not achieve early on in their math careers, they remain disadvantaged throughout their secondary school experience. And, of course, social class. So this was a little bit different than a lot of the reading that we've done in the past. So Lucas found that social class effects continued even after the unremarked revolution. Students who came from an advantaged family, a middle class family, tended to realize advantages in placements even after many others associated factors were controlled in the models. Lucas really believed that this was because of the proactive behavior of middle class parents. They have the college experience, so they know what it takes, what's required in college, what it takes to get into college, and for some families in the lower classes, or more socially challenged families, socially challenged isn't really a good word, but the people that lack that experience don't really have the knowledge to help their students choose courses in high school that are going to have good implications on their future in college and in careers. So Lucas's aim was to see if there were any unintended effects that resulted from the revolution. Though the formal tracking systems were dismantled, there was a new, kind of stratification system beneath the surface. So I think through the use of his statistical models, he really did prove his points. And when something didn't necessarily prove a point, I think he was very transparent on, stating that more research is needed here and so on and so forth. Moore did a review of the tracking inequality as well, and she found that Lucas's analysis revealed data limitations, which I would agree, because there's a limited amount of data from prior to 1965, prior to this revolution, on tracking systems and the different effects of it, and looking at age, gender, and all those social things that are associated with tracking. So there's a lack of a data for that time period. Grusky also commented on Lucas's findings in his review of tracking inequality, of a possibility of persistent social class effects that may be attributable to an advantage that middle class families have. And finally, getting to how this takes me to my further research, Lucas poses the question: how can we teach children to reach their fullest potential, whatever that is in whatever domain of inquiry? So I would like to research the maybe deficiencies that could be improved, improving on some of these deficiencies by improving on the counseling program. working with students at an individual level to select courses and to help them make informed decisions on course